good. You hear what I say? That's supposed to be, yeah? Supposed to be, but so, with that being said, you know, and this is true for many cases, and for some cases this is not so true, and that's why I said supposed to be. When you look at the news, and I'm reminded what the Prime Minister said, I think it was this week, the Prime Minister said something this week. He said in some level of rewording, he is saying that he is not in women's bedrooms. He said that, but something similar to that. And a lot of people were upset over what he said. And you know, I was trying to explain this to Mom. I try not to bring politics into the church. That's one thing. I try not to say this one bad, that one bad, etc. But during a conversation we had, I was telling, my wife was a little bit upset, and a few others, but I can't remember who was on the table, but a few were a little bit upset with what he said. But to be honest with you, what he was saying was actually not a bad thing. Because what he was saying is that you choose your spouse, you choose your love, the person that you're going to love very wisely. Especially someone that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Sister Abigail, I think you know what I mean? You choose them wisely. Because that commitment, when in marriage, it is for better and for worse. Now, when things are lovey-dovey, in the start of a relationship, it's really, really on the heavens. And that's fine. But not all the times, you know, a relationship stays at that level. Sometimes it changes, it gets more mature. You still love the person, but it is different. And during that time where you don't feel the peak or the height of what you think is a relationship, yeah, butterflies, exactly, the butterflies in your stomach. You have to remember that when you're married, that you're married for life. That was a promise that you give. Of course, there are situations and so forth where sometimes they talk about divorce. I want to tell you that divorce should be the last thing. I mean, I'm not speaking from experience of divorce, but I've seen it. I see what divorce does. At the same time, I see sometimes it may be that it was just a simply bad choice at that point in time. But with that being said, God works in mysterious ways as well. So I can't say it is a mistake 100%. I can say that at that point in time, if there was a situation or whatever, that you know, maybe you would have possibly made a mistake. Possibly. As I said, I have to be careful because of God's plan. God's plan is different from my plan. I will not see God's plan in every single thing. Sometimes in something negative, there's something positive that comes out. So I can't say it was a bad choice completely, etc. Right? I just say based on that. So it is important now, young people, that if, and I try not to encourage young people under the teenage years, under the legal years, etc., to get into any serious relationships and so forth. Actually, relationships in general, to be honest with you. Those relationships, I think, I don't think that a lot of young people are prepared. I think that even people over 18 that go into 20s are not always prepared. And I don't think you will ever be 100% prepared in life for something like a relationship. There's too much different people, different permutations, different, you know, everybody is different, and so you have to, I believe that if you're in church and you're getting the word of God, that is a good start. It tells you to be wise in a relationship, in the word, and so forth. So that's a good start for people before they get into marriage and that kind of thing. Went on with that. That is not my sermon this morning, but I just, you know, I need to warn the young people, be careful. Sometimes something starts off very nice, and then it ends up a different way. I've also seen where good people, and I have to say this, listen to my words carefully and don't hold it against me. Some good people like bad people. Sometimes you'll see a good girl like a real bad boy, and a bad girl might like a good boy, and so forth. And so the Bible talks about being equally yoked. And it talks about being equally yoked because of not in the butterfly mode of things, but when things get more serious down the line. You have to be equally yoked for that. You have to be equally yoked to fight whatever battles will come your way, and so forth. And if you don't have half of you, well, when you join in marriage, it becomes like a whole. And so if one side is a little bit weaker, that is fine. But if it is absolutely totally different, then you feel like you have half of the support. And you need to have a strong support structure in marriage and so forth, right, young people? So be very, very careful. In fact, pastors say, don't get into that until you're a little bit more educated, not necessarily tertiary education and so forth, but educated in the Word of God and so forth. before you try to get into a relationship like that. Alright? Amen this morning?
Amen.
Right. I'm talking to somebody children here this morning.
Praise the Lord.
Or maybe somebody outside, but you could go and tell them on the outside. And yeah, so this caused a little bit of tension when the Prime Minister was saying it, but I understand what the Prime Minister was saying, that is a personal choice that you make. However, at the same time, and remember that you would have gotten this in like a 10-second clip of what the man said. But maybe he was saying a few things, I don't know. Maybe he was saying that is one part of it, but maybe another part is that we will try to curb crime and so forth. So I can't, as I said, I'm not bad talking the Prime Minister, but I have to say, that is not a crime plan. What he said there was not a crime plan. So at the same time, I think he was saying something very important to us that we could remember as Valentine's Day is coming up, especially what is going on. You're seeing men killing women and so forth. More men killing women, right? The women are killing the men so much. But you're seeing men killing the women over a lot of things. They're killing them not necessarily due to unfaithfulness, but just in an ignorant rage or whatever it is. And so we have to learn to love, and in the process of loving, one time I said compromise, and I remember one person raised their eye because he was like, but love is not compromise. And I said, love is compromise. Love and compromise go together. It's hard. I am not perfect at love, I want to tell you that. I don't think anybody here is perfect at love the way Jesus was perfect at love. But I want to tell you that from the little that I learned, part of being in love, whether that is a love of your spouse or a love of a friend or whatever, I'm talking about not just a relationship love like that, I'm talking about a general love. Sometimes you have to compromise. Sometimes you will see that something not going the way you want it to go, sometimes you have to compromise. So that's a good lesson to learn in life, sometimes compromise. Don't compromise on God, but you can compromise on other things if you have to compromise to maintain a proper relationship and so forth. And right, so I said what I have to say. So that brings me to another point here, which is that many of our nationals really need to turn from hatred to love. And last week I spoke about grudges, right? Before we started the sermon, I spoke about that grudge. Sometimes somebody bad drive here, or they treat you bad, and you say, I could do for him. Whenever you have in your mind, I could do for him, or something like that, I want you to check yourself. I check myself too. Don't feel like it never happened to me before. Feel like I could do for somebody. But whenever you feel that is our warning signal. That is our warning signal to be very careful of whatever action or decision you're going to make right after that. Alright? These little signals is what will help us, because these little signals will make us think twice before we come out with a cutlass to hit somebody on the road when somebody bad drives us, or whatever is the situation. And I know it is hard. It is very hard when somebody does something unfair to you. It's extremely hard. In my life, I have gone through a lot of unfairness, and it was extremely hard for me to get over it. But you know what I always say, I listen to TD Jakes. I was telling, I think it was Sister Shelley, I was talking about TD Jakes. And I am not the only one in life that would have gone through unfair things. And I'm sure that unfair things would have happened to you. But when I look at TD Jakes, he reminds me of life not just being unfair to me only. When I look at it as life being selfishly about me, is not about me only. Other people go through that. And in that, not everybody ends up in the gutter. Look at T.D. Jakes, he's a very big pastor now. And I don't even think I want to be like in a large, like have to take care of a large congregation like that. I could work with a fly fixer. Alright, but I'm just saying that God didn't leave him down. Even if whatever unfairness happened to him, whatever happened to him, he took that, and he took that from God. He was inspired by God, and he used that for something better, to build upon. So, I want to say, when you go through something hard in life, and there was nobody that taught me this, I have to learn this on my own, don't build bad structures. Build good structures. Because one day, it will come back to you, and when you have a shaky house, it's going to all fall apart. Even for people who build good structures, sometimes it feels as if it will fall apart. But I want to tell you, better start good with a good foundation than start with a bad foundation. Alright, my brothers and sisters, I might be talking to the crowd, the choir this morning, as they say, people who already know it, but I have to say that. Alright? And at the same time, I want to say too, there is an old saying, to be careful when something gets too sweet. You ever heard that expression? Never heard that expression? I think Sister Denise probably heard it. Be careful when something gets too sweet. The old people used to say, when something gets too sweet, it could produce wounds. You never heard that expression, Sister Abigail? Yes, well, I do believe that that could be true. When something is too sweet for too long, it attracts wounds. It attracts other things to come in. So be careful. Guard even that which is sweet. Guard yourself. If you're sweet in Christ Jesus, guard yourself. You understand? If you're sweet in a relationship, if your marriage is going great, guard yourself. Do not take that as it means everything will be fine and dandy. And I'm not bringing doom to you. I'm bringing a warning to you. I'm bringing a warning for you to be careful. Sometimes I even say the friendship. You know, I remember Daddy would say, and you'll be shocked when I say this, Daddy would say, boy, I don't really have no close friends, you know. And they might feel hurt as a people who love Daddy that he could say something like that. But the reason he said that was because when something gets so sweet, sometimes it could bring wounds. And the wounds will come in different ways, you know. It don't come like an actual wound. It might come like a little something in between, a little undermine, a little whatever, a little comment, a little whatever, and so forth. And that, even a little comment could damage someone. So he always was kind of careful about it. So just be careful about those things. Whenever something is sweet, maintain it for it to be sweet. And be careful in the process of it. All right. So, you say, Pastor, what you're saying today, this morning, is so negative. Surely in life, many times, there are extremes when it comes to what we are focusing on. Even the Bible talk about being hot or cold and so forth. But in life, you have to build that harmonic balance. You can't do one thing necessarily only, and for another thing to suffer. Try to build that harmonic balance. I still learn that in life, to build harmonic balance. But anyways, that is not the sermon this morning. Before we get to the sermon, please turn to your neighbor this morning very quickly. Now hear this. Don't take this as a buffet, but I have to tell you something. Hear this. If your neighbor is your spouse or your child, I want you to turn to your other neighbor. If you're living with that neighbor, you can tell that neighbor, you can tell your child and your spouse good things all the time. I want you to tell somebody in church that is not living in your house something good this morning. What do you say about that? Don't vex with me, right? All right, good. All right, so I want you to speak to someone who is not of your blood this morning. Can you do that this morning? You ready?
Yeah, ready.
Now kindly repeat after me. You are blessed and highly favored. The enemy is defeated. Because the Spirit of God is in your life. God will continue to provide for you. Because you are faithful to Him. Another good season is about to come. You will be the head and not the tail. Tell me to end your really head. Blessings and prosperity will continue to be in your life and your generations to come. In Jesus' mighty name. Could we give God a good clap? God is good? I don't know. As I say, whole week, I don't get a blessing like that. I don't know if all is not glad to come to church to get a blessing sometime from your fellow brother and sister. Alright? God is good all the time. My sermon today is taken once more again from Genesis. All the fellow with Genesis, raise all the hands for the fellow. Alright, to God be the glory. I learned it too, and what I learned, I try to bring. So the first book of the Bible, as you would know, and I'm glad to see that most of you are here, so it is not a, the past month, I don't want to say it was a series, but I have to say technically it was a series. It was a series, and if you missed one of the days, you would have missed something important as we get into a holistic picture of who God is, not what God is, but who God is. But you can say what, because if you don't know what He is, you will know who He is. Alright? So I hope that you have been getting not just the negative parts, but the positive parts of what God does. And I hope that you have been seeing how this aligns sometimes with your life. Because in the past, as you would have known, I would have preached and say, well, God could have done something, but He didn't. And that is to show you sometimes that in life we have this expectation of life, but we don't understand where God, the mindset of where God is coming from. Alright? So I hope that you see the mindset. If you understand a little bit the mindset, I believe that you could really unlock what God has for you. Alright? And as most of you who are here, who have been here, we've heard about Abraham's experience. Everybody remember Abraham's experience a little bit? Yeah. Raise your hand if you forget, raise your hand. That's okay, I go back to you. I go back to you. You know, sometimes, I'll tell you something, you feel that I just come to buffalo you up. I don't come to buffalo you up. Sometimes I copy in my sermon that I talk about on a Sunday during the week. And I forget the title of my own sermon. So the thing about it is that this is not to say I am calling on anybody to say you're not good at something or you're not learning something. Sometimes you need that refresher and remember. That's why I record sometimes my sermons, I look back at my own sermons to remember what God is telling me. Alright? So if you don't remember, I have plenty of work to do with the videos to bring it back online and so forth. So maybe you'll get a chance through that to do it. But one thing I've said before is that I don't like to come back to something when I finish preach about it. When I finish preach about it, I want something new to come the following week, and the following week, and the next month, and so forth. Alright? And, right, so we've heard about Abraham's experience, and as I have been reading, I have come across something more interesting, experiences that Abraham's generation went through. I see Eden started to talk already, Just Alright, to God be the glory. Alright. So I came across something interesting this week, going through this book again, Genesis. And Abraham, as you know, had a son. And his son's name, but he had many sons, But particularly, Isaac was important in the Bible, as we know. So it was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in that order, right? And Isaac had a son, so it was a generation down to whose name was Jacob. So you always say Abraham, you always say the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now you know that this is one generation, one lineage, right? And in the process of reading, I came across something interesting in Genesis 26. So if, we'll turn to Genesis 26 just now. And it was so surprising that I didn't get nothing when I read it the first time. God didn't tell me anything. And I skip it. And I say I read about 8 chapters just to find something that was good. And then suddenly I went back to it and I found something that God gave me. So I say thank God, because sometimes I wait whole week for something. I say, God, give me something to give to these people. I don't want these people to be, I want them to have something more of you. And this is what he gave me. So firstly, thanks be to God. I want to say thanks be to God for giving me something. This is not from me, but this is from Christ Jesus. This is from God. In Genesis chapter 26, a similar incident happened to Abimelech. But this time it was with Abraham's son, Isaac. So initially what had happened was Abraham had claimed that his wife was really his sister. And that was in front of the king Abimelech. That was so he wouldn't get killed by the people and so forth. Well, the similar situation again in Genesis happened to Isaac, right? So Isaac's wife was Rebekah, right? So Isaac told King Abimelech, the same one, King Abimelech, that Rebekah was his sister instead of his wife. And nearly the same thing happened. Abimelech protected Isaac by decreeing that any man who touches Isaac or Rebekah will be put to death. So they would both be protected in the land. Now, why did I bring that up? I brought that up because there's something significantly important, but I couldn't grasp it. My mind couldn't grasp it, but after thinking about it a little bit and asking God what it is, sometimes in life, you think that you're going through a challenge, right? And you're going through a challenge once. But sometimes in life, you might go through that challenge twice. And it is so important because very rare do you see the exact thing replicated in the Word of God, exact like this. So it had to have some significance. They wouldn't repeat a chapter as far as, I say, God, you have to have something important in this. You wouldn't repeat a whole entire chapter to waste our time. You wouldn't do that, God. I know God. Alright? And so that was one of the lessons I learned. That sometimes what you go through, and this have a lot to do with what they talk about even generational curses. Sometimes it happens to a generation above, and then it can also continue to happen on a generation below.
Yeah.
Now, in this case, it is not a generational curse. Thanks be to God, it wasn't so. They were blessed people. But I want to say that you have to be careful of those things. Be careful of the generational curses. Pray it out of your life. Because sometimes whatever happens to the father, sometimes happens to the son or the daughter. And so forth. And trust me, you don't really want that when it comes to a generational curse. Right? Now at the same time, it also means that the blessings that come on the father could also come on the children. And that is good news for us. So if you had good parents, man, better believe that the good things should come to you as well too. God didn't do it one way. He didn't say curse only. It's blessings too.
Amen.
So we have to remember that this morning. Alright? That's the first thing to build your faith this morning. Build your faith. You might go through life and you might see something right away. But know from the experience of your parents. You could look at it from the experience of your parents. Whether your parents have a little bit of difficult time, when you say, here what, that could be a generational curse. Start praying it out one time. Now if you see your parents were blessed, you could say, here what, I expect blessings in that same regard. Good stuff, right? Right, good. So can you turn to Genesis chapter 26 as we quickly read God's promise to Isaac. I like God's promises, but not like I love it. Amen to the first person who have it. Amen. Good. And there was a famine in the land. I should stop right there. Life wasn't fine and dandy. Again, we see that. Even for the blessed, life was not fine and dandy necessarily. There was a famine in the land. Now, as I say, let's think about this a little bit. You will say, but God bless these people. How you could put a famine in our day and age? And we kind of think like that sometimes. We say, but we bless how this could happen to us. But look at the word of God. Now, I am not belittling God by saying this. I am saying that God's plan is different. We don't understand it, but we need to try and remember it for these days when we go through something a little hard. We need to remember it. You say, here what now? Remember when you have a little, you're blessed, but you didn't get exactly what you want? You say, here what, look at that famine in the land. Remember it. So you don't break your faith. You see, when you break your faith in God, you will lose what God has for you. He always talk about that faith. In fact, that faith is one of the hardest things to find. Because the faith of a child is different from how we get knowledgeable. We get tertiary education. Nothing is wrong with it. I get tertiary education. But it makes it more difficult for me sometimes to follow God out of pure faith. Out of the faith of innocence. When I have so much knowledge of all these other things. Because I kind of know the opposite sometimes. So sometimes you have to push aside that knowledge. And to say, here what? Come